Okay, so we're back again. Hopefully, back for good for right now. Had some technical difficulties. A lot of y'all were saying that you weren't able to see the feed and that it was choppy, but I think we have that resolved now. So again, as usual, as you jump on in, remember, don't forget to say hello, say where you're from, and make sure you stick around until the end because we're going to be giving away a giveaway at the very end of this evening. And also, I'm going to be starting with the questions that club members have submitted to me over the course of the week. And so usually I'll just pick like a sampling of those to make sure that I can discuss some of those so that everybody gets the benefit of some of these really good questions that people have been submitting. And then again, if you have any questions this evening, make sure you throw them down in the chat screen here. And I'm going to wait just a little bit since we did have technical difficulties, and I see folks are coming in. And just let me know as you're coming in if you can hear and see me pretty well. So far, it looks like most of y'all can see and hear everything fine here. Awesome. Good, good. Okay. Okay. So we're going to jump right into some of the questions that have been on that have come through the Steady Horse Club. So the first one is Marcia Spears, and she says, I'm working on moving the shoulder, and my horse moves their opposite hoof over instead of the one I'm putting pressure on. Is that okay? If not, how do I get her to do it the right way? Okay, so really good question. When you're asking your horse to move their shoulder over, when you're doing that kind of groundwork, basically what you're doing is, let's see if I can get this right. If I'm putting pressure on this shoulder, I want to move this shoulder over that direction, okay? And so what I want is for this shoulder to actually move over to this direction, okay? Now what that means is they'll have to pick up their foot and cross over to move away in that direction. They'll have to pick the foot up. Now, but that doesn't mean that the other foot's gonna stay still. That other foot is gonna have to move too to make some room for that foot to cross over. So sometimes when you're first teaching a horse to cross over or to move their shoulder over, they might not actually cross over. They might just kind of shimmy over. And if we're just starting out, I'll reward that because they're moving in the right direction, right? But after a while, the expectation is going to be for them to give me a good deep crossing over. So what that means is, say you start tapping that shoulder, and you want that horse to move over. Well, I wouldn't release the pressure, right, when they just kind of shimmy over without crossing. The only time I'd release the pressure is when it actually crosses over. Then I'd release the pressure to let my pony know that I have an expectation for them to give me a good, deep lateral movement, moving that shoulder over, okay? So if you're finding that your horse is just kind of inching over and moving, that's great. You know, they're moving in the right direction, but as we begin to kind of refine these things, our expectations are going to gradually increase and we'll look for more from our pony. So that's my recommendation there. Take it nice and slow. Make sure you're clear with what you're asking. But once you start looking for that deep crossover, make sure you sustain the pressure. It doesn't have to be heavy pressure, but sustain that pressure until your pony crosses over like you're looking for. Really, really good question, Marcia, because that's a typical issue that we see sometimes. Let me say hello to some of y'all that have jumped on. So there's a bunch of you guys on right now. We've got Sherry Miracle. Always good to see you, Sherry. Rhonda from San Diego. We've got Cindy. Howdy, Cindy. Patty from Kansas. We have Jennifer from Texas. We've got Ann from Arizona. We also have Sandy from North Dakota. Pauline. We have Sally and Sheila and Melissa. Good. We got a good group jumping on here this evening. So super excited to talk to all y'all. Okay, so the next question I want to do is from June. And June says, I have been working in my round pen and arena with my horse. However, when I take him into the field, he gets nervous and doesn't want to follow my lead. Any question? Oh, that's a great question. And it's so interesting because here's the thing about round pens and closures, even small like warm-up arenas. They're great, but they can also become a crutch. And it's nice to start out working your horse in a smaller area, a contained area, if you will, where you'll be able to control the movement a little bit better. They can't quite get away from you as much because you can keep up with them. And if some of y'all notice when you look at some of my training videos, when I work in a round pen, I am working in a very small round pen. I know a lot of people are working in 60, 70-foot round pens, right? And I like to work in a small round pen. I like to work in about a 40-foot round pen where I can basically direct my horse with minimal effort, because I don't want to be chasing my horse to the point that I'm tired and exhausted, because whenever we get tired and exhausted quickly, our decision making tends to go sour, tends to go south, right? We make bad decisions when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're restless, right? And so it's good to kind of set yourself up physically to make sure that you're in a position to help your horse out. So I don't want to be in a position where I'm chasing my horse around that round pen, okay? And so I like to work in a small round pen, but then I have other size round pens when they get a little bit bigger, and then I have other spaces that are still contained but larger, where I can gradually move my horse out of that situation, take them out of that comfort zone. So that's the first thing. Kind of be gradual. If there's a way that you can gradually expand the area that your horse is working in. The second thing is to make sure that your expectations are realistic, that they're not too radical, okay? So if your horse has been working in a round pen, and then say you just take them out into an open field, they're going to have a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So I would recommend make sure you work them in that area that they're used to working first, okay? And I'm not saying to run them ragged into the ground, but give them a little bit of incentive to want to be relaxed, to take those deep breaths, to draw to you, then take them out of that environment and take them into the new place. Then begin to work them and start gradually. Start at a walk and then work yourself up at a trot and then into the canter. And don't ask for too much too soon. If you get a couple of strides at the trot, then breathe your horse back down. Let them know they did a good job. Say you're sending your horse out at the canter. Again, get a couple of nice strides and breathe them back down. So this is a good thing to do when you're doing your groundwork, when you're doing your round pen work. Be gradual, have realistic expectations, and make sure that if you get a win, and by win, I mean any amount of progress, take it, praise that horse, let them know that they're doing awesome, and then go ahead and start working on the next thing. You'll find that I am not a big proponent of schooling our horses just for the sake of schooling them. I think it's important that the work that we do with our horses be efficient and that it makes sense. There's not a lot of time. Time is a finite resource, and we don't have a lot of time. Most of us have families and jobs and just things that we've got to do and take care of, and I want to help you to make sure that the time you're spending with your horse is as effective and efficient as possible. Thank you for that question. That was a really good question, June. Okay, a couple more of y'all have jumped on. Good to see you, Dawn from Indiana, and we also have Tiffany from Michigan, Debbie from Missouri. I see Celeste from Indiana, and Annette from North Carolina. So glad that y'all could join us this evening. Glad to have you. All right, so my next question is from Denise, and Denise says, my horse Brandy struggles to get out of our horse trailer and has cut her leg doing so. How can I teach or help her out so that her reaction is not so dramatic? That is a really good question, and a really important one, because it's interesting because a lot of injuries happen either loading or unloading horses from trailers. And so if you can work your horse through those things, you're going to find that your horse is going to learn to be more relaxed, more tempered. They're going to be okay with entering and exiting the trailer. What happens when a horse gets injured entering or exiting the trailer is they become less likely to want to load. So it's really important to make sure that our horses are having good experiences when we are asking them to go into the trailer. So we're asking her to go in. She gets nervous backing up. A few weeks ago, I posted a video of a horse that would just shoot out of the trailer. And in fact, this particular horse, I didn't realize he was that bad. He almost ran me over. And so I worked with his owner and the horse, and we worked through it kind of step by step, having this horse back up out of the trailer. And here's what it looked like: is I would bring the horse in, take a deep breath, give him a rub. And so I would ask for just one step. I'd ask for one step back. And immediately as he stepped back, then I'd immediately gently pull him forward and rub and love on him, just affirm him, let him know that he was doing awesome, that being with me in the trailer is a good place, that he doesn't want to rush, he doesn't want to, thrash out of there. He wants to take his time. And then we'd kind of do that back and forth. So then I'd ask for 2 steps backwards, and then I'd ask him to step forward. If he was a little bracy, we would just hold gently and wait and be patient. And as soon as he steps forward, again, we'd say, oh, that's good. You want to be here. That's good. And the idea here is to reinforce the idea that being in the trailer is a good thing. He doesn't want to rush out. There's nothing exciting to see out there. The best place for him to be is with you in the trailer. So the key is to be gradual. Another really important thing is make sure that you are talking your horse through the backing up process. Just put yourself in your horse's shoe. So you're in a dark trailer. You can't see necessarily directly behind you. Someone's telling you to back up or motioning for you to back up. So I like to tell my ponies, back with each step. Back, back. As we get to the edge of the trailer, about 12 inches to 6 inches from the edge of the trailer, I'll start to say, down, down, so that they make that association. So it's not a surprise when they step down, especially if you happen to have a trailer that doesn't have a ramp, and you have a little bit of a considerable drop. You want to make sure you prepare your horse for that. A lot of the issues that we have with our horse come from lack of preparation on our part, not setting them up and kind of seeing things through their perspective to try and enable them to do the jobs we're asking them to do as best as they possibly can. And when we set them up to do well, that's when we really begin to create a real lifelong bond with our horses. Our horses begin to trust us. They begin to understand that we really, really have their best interest at heart. That was a great question. I'm going to move on to the next one in a second, but I see a couple more of y'all have jumped on. I see Terry Glover from South California. Good to see you, Terry, as always. And then Caroline from Georgia, and we've got Christina. Howdy, Christina. Or Christina. Howdy, Christina. Glad to see you this evening. Okay. So another question I have is from Denise, and it says, from Cindy, and it says, donkeys are so smart, and mine is learning well. Will your horse training techniques work with her, or do they need to be modified at all? Oh, that's a really, really good question. So, of course, everybody knows donkeys, of course, in the equine family, but there are some differences between donkeys, horses, and mules, for that matter. Something about donkeys is, yes, they are very, very, very intelligent. And because they're so intelligent, they are very black and white. And what I mean by that is they require, to work with them successfully, they aren't as forgiving as horses are. They require very clear communication. So, for example, if I ask my horse to, or if I ask my donkey to do something, say it's just leading, okay, and I apply pressure, then what I need to do is I'll apply a little bit of pressure. And if that donkey even moves a quarter of an inch towards that pressure, you have to immediately release the pressure so that you're clear in your communication in what you're asking your donkey. If you are clear in your communication, your donkey will respect you so much, and they will be so eager to please. And they're actually a lot of fun to train, and they're super curious and inquisitive, and of course, so gosh darn cute on top of all of that. And so why not enjoy that training process as much as you can? So just make sure that you really work in small step-by-step motions, really for the sake of us, not so much for the sake of the donkeys, to make sure that we're being very clear in our communication, also that we're releasing pressure whenever they're giving just the slightest. So that means paying a little bit more attention, because it's so interesting. It's a lot easier to sour or ruin a donkey than it is a horse. For some reason, it seems in my experience, God made horses so much more forgiving, and donkeys, they have a long memory. So make sure you're slow and steady with them, and if you do that, you're going to do well. All these other things apply. Just slow it down a little bit. Make sure that you're really looking out to release that pressure as soon as you possibly can. That was a really, really awesome question. I love donkeys. I actually have one donkey, and he's kind of the ranch mascot here at Grace Ranch, and his name is Scooter. He's a little mini donkey, and he's the cutest thing in the world. Okay, we're gonna go to a couple of the questions that y'all have thrown up here this evening on Facebook. And before I do that, just a few more of you guys have jumped on, so I wanted to say hello. I see Karen from Minnesota. So glad to have you. We have Elena from Charlestown, West Virginia. We also have Patty and also Danielle just joining us from Las Vegas. So glad to have y'all this evening. Okay, so this is from Sheila, and it says, what's the best method for teaching a horse to back up? My mare will do it, but it takes a lot of pressure, and she will only take a few steps. Okay, so, backing up is such an interesting one, because, I can't tell you how many people or trainers, clinicians I see, they're backing a horse up, and my gosh, they just yank the face off these horses. They're backing them up, and you see people say, back up, back, back. And, they're getting in these horses' faces, and they're getting them to back up. And what I'm seeing is these horses kind of brace a little bit, and, they're backing so hard that they're not realizing that horse is really just trying to figure out what's being asked of them, right? And so sometimes, without realizing it, our horse is already starting to back up, and we haven't even begun to think about praising them or rewarding them. So even though your horse is backing up a few steps, and a few steps is good, there's a lot of horses that won't take one step back. So the fact that you're getting a few steps, that means you're doing something right. So just make sure that you're looking for slight progress. What I mean by that, when I ask a horse to back up, and it doesn't really matter the method, and that's the thing about steady horse. This is more than just a method. This is about an approach. This is about communicating with your horse in a way that is fair and makes sense to your horse, and that's going to set you up for any horse that you deal with, whether it's learned, this method or that method or whatever the case might be. So here's the thing. You're going to ask your horse to back up. Let's say you are wiggling the rope, okay, wiggling the lead rope, and the expectation is for that horse to go straight back, all right? So this comes back to the whole idea of being very clear in your communication. So we start wiggling that rope. Well, the first thing, when you start to wiggle that rope, I'm going to wiggle really light. It's this nice little wave of the rope. And then after about a second, so I'll start a little light. After a second, I might start increasing it a little bit, okay? Here's where a lot of people go wrong. One thing is that horse might actually walk forward out of that pressure. And this is what drives me nuts. I see people, horses walking forward out of that pressure, and what do? They stop wiggling, okay? So as soon as they stop wiggling, one, they've taken away pressure. And we know that when we take away pressure, we're telling our horse, oh, good job, you've done a great job. So they're giving this horse mixed signals. So first they stop wiggling, and then they start yanking on the rope. So if you look at it through your horse's eyes, as soon as you stop wiggling, they're like, oh, great, okay, she stopped. I did the right thing by going forward. And then next thing you know, they see that person yanking on the rope and saying back and and our horse becomes so confused because they thought they were doing the right thing. So once you start wiggling, if your horse goes forward, don't get mad and upset. Just kind of float backwards with him and keep wiggling. Just keep wiggling and just kind of stay with them. If he goes sideways, stay with that pony and keep wiggling, because we're not asking him to go sideways. We want him to go back. And you're going to keep wiggling and be patient and take your time until that horse starts to go back. Notice I said start. All he has to do is start to maybe rock back on his haunches and immediately release that pressure. Let the horse know wow, you've done a good job, rub and love on him. And then go right back to it, ask again, but don't release the pressure until he rocks back on his haunches and maybe starts to lift up that foot to go backwards. Release the pressure, right? Because a lot of times we have an end goal in our head, but our horse has no idea what that goal is. They don't. There's no way for them to read our minds like that. And so we need to make sure that step by step, we are kind of encouraging them along the way, saying, okay, you're moving in the right direction. Good job, bud. You're doing awesome, right? So make sure you're gradual. Make sure you take your time, and make sure that you spend lots of time affirming, loving on your horse, letting them know when they've done a good job and they're moving in the right direction. And if you do that, if you're gradual, you'll see in no time 3 steps is going to turn to 4 and 5 and 6, and your pony's going to be moving off of really light pressure for you. Great question. Thank you for that question. That is awesome. Okay, a couple more shout outs. We have Angela from Arizona, and I see Jesse just jumped on, and Terry Hedges. Good to see you, Terry. That's my fellow Texan here. Okay, so I've got another question here. Oh, and I also see that Sandra just jumped on. Howdy back to you, Sandra. Good to see you. Okay, so I got another question here from Carolyn. It says, my horse doesn't like to take the bit. She is very sensitive. What should I do? Okay, so if you're teaching your horse to take the bit, one of the things that I recommend is make sure that you set aside quite a bit of time, because the best way to teach your horse to take the bit, it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, it might be quick. Some horses will take it like that, but other horses, it might take, a good 5-10 minutes, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, but when you think that, putting a bit in should take about a couple seconds, that's an eternity, right? And sometimes we forget that really it's just 5 or 10 minutes. Let's give them some time to figure this out. So first thing I like to do is I like to make sure that if I'm putting the bit on, I'll just hold it up against that horse's mouth, okay? No expectation. I don't even have the crown of the bridle. I just put the bit up against the horse's mouth. I hold on to the halter, and while I'm holding on to the halter, and I'll do this, usually I use rope halters, so you can slip the bit in its mouth with the halter on, okay? And that's what I recommend, because then that helps to give you a little bit of control, at least until your horse understands and is taking the bit pretty well. So I'll hold that bit up against their mouth, and you know what I'll do is I'll just wait. I'll just hold it there, and I'll just wait, and I'll take a deep breath. Now think about this, because if I start breathing and I start with my halter hand rubbing my horse and loving my horse, what's eventually going to happen? What does a horse do when they start to relax? Think about it. They start to lick and chew, right? They open that mouth, okay? So as he relaxes, he's going to start to chomp a little bit, right? And as he chomps out, I'll slide that bit into his mouth, and then I'll hold it there for maybe a 2, 3, 4, 5 count. Take a deep breath, and I'll gently slide it out. So you see where I'm going with this is my idea here is to get my horse relaxed with this bit hanging in front of his face. And as he relaxes, I put it in, and I say, oh, good job. I rub and love on him. He's only going to hold it for a few moments, and then I take it out. And if you think about that from your horse's perspective, he's like, wow, I wasn't bad. He just made me take that bit for a few moments. It wasn't awful. And in fact, man, especially if you have like a sweet iron bit or something that's going to help draw out that salivation, it's going to encourage them to lick and chew more. And you want to turn it into a good thing where they want to have that bit because they know you're rubbing and loving on them and reaffirming them as you're putting that bit up into their mouth. And so sometimes, like I said, it might take a couple minutes, it might take 10 minutes, but it's worth the time and the investment to take that time and do it with the horse. Because what you're going to do is you're going to build a foundation of trust and confidence in your horse. And you're not going to have a horse who, today he's taking a bit, today he's not. He's going to very consistently begin to understand that you are fair, that you are a willing partner, that you love them, that you're sweet to them, that they can trust you to take care of them. And then also the other thing that I'll do, when I take that bit out, I'll always just kind of take my finger and I'll kind of massage the gums back there and rub on them in there again, just to let them know, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay and that you're comfortable. And all those little tiny steps your horse recognizes and notices those things. People look at me like I'm crazy because I talk to my horse. You always hear me talking about loving on your pony. I feel like I have real relationships with my horses. They all have personalities. And a lot of people will tell me, oh, that horse doesn't really love you. It's just an animal, and he just likes you because you happen to feed, whatever people say. Well, those people haven't really had a significant bond with a horse before. And if you haven't had that bond, I'm here to tell you, you can have that bond with your horse. And it's something special like nothing else you'll experience in your life. But it takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes trying to see things through your horse's perspective. So great question. Great question here. Okay. Next one. We have a couple more folks that have jumped on. I see Cynthia from Texas. Howdy, Cynthia. And we have Adele. Good to see you, Adele. And Carrie from Oregon. Good to see you, Carrie. Always good to see you, Carrie. All right. So we have, it says, how hard is it to get a horse started that came from a bad trainer? That's from Shay Robinson. Okay. So I guess the question there is, in my experience, the cleaner the slate with the horse, the easier for me. And that question about a bad trainer, I hate to say that there are bad trainers, okay? But also there's also folks that are trying their best with what they have, and a lot of people have done things a certain way because they've been told that this is what works and this is how you have to handle a horse and this is the way and that kind of thing. So I hate to call people bad trainers because a lot of people are, if you will, they're bad trainers, but they don't mean to be, okay? But here's the thing. When a horse comes with a history, it takes more time. I much rather get a horse that has never been handled. I'd much rather get a wild Mustang than a horse that has had a lot of bad experiences with people, because that's a little bit more that you're going to have to work through and prove to that horse that, hey, this isn't like the past. This is nothing like the past experiences that you had with people. This is going to be better, and I'm going to treat you well and with respect, and we're going to have a partnership, and you're going to get through this. So how hard is it? Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little bit more difficulty, but if you stick with it, if you're patient, and if you look at things through the horse's perspective, you'll do much, much better. Don't make the mistake of drinking the Kool-Aid of one particular method or this or that and try to make your horse a cookie cutter. Don't do that. Just make sure that you take a steady approach, though. And when you take a steady approach, it doesn't matter what you use or how you go about it. Your horse is going to trust you because of it. Really, really good question, and I wish you the best of luck and pray for your safety and health and for your horse as you work with that horse. Okay, this is going to be the last question that I'm taking this evening, and then I'm going to go straight to the weekly giveaway prize, which is a Steady Horse hat like this week. So excited about that. Okay, so last question here. Oh, where was it here? Okay. It says, can horses understand spoken word, such as trot? Oh, I love this question. Really good. Yes, 100%. It's so crazy. I was talking about this with one of my friends just yesterday, and we were talking about our horses, and our horses know their names. Like I can call out to Andre, and Andre will come walking up. Or I can call out to Tony, and Tony will, and I can call Mr. Bonner, and Mr. Bonner will start walking out. Kid, he'll start walking out. Who else really knows their name? Chrome knows his name. So these ponies, they can understand spoken word 100%. And I have an extensive driving background. In fact, last week I was working with one of the carriage companies in downtown San Antonio and helping them to get their horses safe and out on the roads where they can travel. And one of the biggest things that I teach is using those verbal commands. Verbal commands, especially in driving, are super, super important. So horses can understand quite a bit of vocabulary, and I think, and don't hold me to this, but I think the number is something like a horse can understand with distinction about 21 words. I believe it is. So it's significant. So yeah, trot, canter. My lesson horses, when I'm teaching lessons, if I tell the student, I say, okay, now go ahead and ask your horse for a canter. Before the student can ask the horse for a canter, the horse will start cantering. So a lot of times I'll be like, right, so that the horse doesn't hear it. But yeah, horses can understand language, but more than spoken language, and I think most of y'all know this, horses respond much more in tune to your body language, to your approach, to your demeanor, right? So for example, if I tell my horse, trot, like that doesn't really, if my horse is in a walk and I say trot, that doesn't really give like that feeling of trot. But if I say, okay, trot, come on, trot, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's trot. So the way that you say it is more important than actually what you're saying, okay? So just be aware of that, because body language, your approach, your demeanor, your candor is much more important than what you're saying. And like, for example, a good example of that is we all know the universal that, if you're a horse trainer, that's what makes you an official horse trainer. Or you say, or quit, or stop that, it's all these sharp, abrupt patterns to make that horse know, oh, I'm in trouble. And you see horses, right? They know better. Like, oh, no, I'm in trouble. So yes, horses do understand spoken word for sure, but just make sure that you're leading with your body language and your approach. Awesome question. Thank you for that. Okay. And then really quick, couple more shout outs before we go to the giveaway. We have Teresa that's come on this evening from Ontario. Good to see you, Teresa. We also have Lisa from North Carolina and Mel from North Texas. Good to see you. Howdy, Mel. All right. So here's our weekly giveaway. And this week, the criteria for entering to win was posting a photo of you and your steady horse. So I'm going to go ahead and punch it in here. Let's see. Okay, we'll do a little bit of a drum roll here. The wheel is winding, and it looks like we have a winner. We have Debbie Kate and her horse Hawk. All right, so congratulations to Debbie and Hawk. I am super excited. Y'all are going to be receiving your Steady Horse hat. That's the gift for this week. So I want you to make sure that you email me your shipping info at noah@steadyhorse.com. And Peter will get that hat sent to you ASAP, okay? So make sure that you email me your shipping info so we can get that out to you. So super excited for you, Debbie. Listen, y'all, I can never express enough how grateful I am to everybody that comes in here, that participates in the group. And it's just such an invaluable resource for so many horse owners. And some of y'all don't realize that we have horse owners who have just been a horse owner for like a day, a week, right? And we have horse owners that have been owning horses for 70 years. It's insane. And so to be able to come together as a community, to empower each other, to make sure that we're being fair and doing the best by our horses, that's something really powerful. And it's something that your horse is so grateful for. I want to encourage you, never stop learning. Learn as much as you can from whomever you can, wherever you can. And I just want to pray that God protects y'all, that he keeps you safe as you work with your horses. I pray that he blesses everything you put your hand to and that he provides for your every need. I pray that he keeps your family safe. And I pray that he keeps you and your horses healthy. In Jesus' name, y'all have a great evening. Thanks again for sharing this evening with me.